Married at First Sight, season 14, episode 5. And this is the after party, y'all. And you know what? I really like these after parties this year. I didn't watch the after parties last year. And in a lot of ways, I didn't want to watch them because I didn't want to kind of get hints to where things are. But I think the way these marriages are playing out, we almost can predict that some of these marriages ain't going to last. One is, of course, we know Alyssa's and Chris isn't going to last. So there's really not much there's not much spoilers on the after party. And I can already tell you that Mark and Lindsay ain't going to last either. And I'm about to say, and I'm not about to say, I am going to say Jasmine and Michael, you know what? They ain't going to last either. So the only two I think are going to end up making it are going to be Katina and Olajuwon and Noe and Steve, to be honest with you. But anyway, the after party was was really good. It was with Keisha Knight Pulliam again. I still think she's doing a really good job. And there was a lot of additional information in the after party. And I integrated it into my normal videos for all the regular couples. So be sure to check out each individual video for the couples, because I integrated some of this information. But I know some of you guys don't get the after party, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you what happened in it. So at first, it started off with the drink of the night. As you know, they have a cocktail every night to start it off. And the drink of the night was called Trouble in Paradise. And the drink was vodka, peach schnapps, orange juice, and cranberry. So that was the drink. So everybody's sipping on their little cocktail, which they need to, because there's a lot going on in this episode. Then they went on to this whole incident that happened to Lindsay when Lindsay was with Mark, and Mark was like, we need to slow it down. And Lindsay was all confused. So Lindsay starts explaining that, of course, they had consummated their marriage, and not only had they done it once, they had done it like 3 times in that day alone. So part of the reason she's saying she was so upset was because here we do come from this dinner where you start talking about you want to slow it down after we done slept with each other like 3 or 4 times. So she's basically saying she was kind of hurt by it, blindsided by it. You know, why all of a sudden you want to slow it down after we've been over here, you know, doing the wild thing 3 or 4 times a day. So next thing you know, Keisha Knight Pulliam and says, hey, what about this whole wild party that Olajuwon was talking about, the threesomes and sleeping with the mother and the daughter? And so Keisha says, can we get Olajuwon on the phone? So this is a clue right here. They must still be together, because I think this after party is taped well after they say yes or no. So the fact that Katina could just call up Olajuwon on the phone and he answers must tell me they're still together. And not only when she called him up, he didn't answer. He's like, hello, love. Hello, my love. What's going on? So I don't know. I think they must make it, y'all. And I'm really happy about that. But she calls up Olajuwon, and Olajuwon proceeds to tell us the whole story of what happened, with how it came about that he slept with a mother and a daughter. So he tells the story that his cousin, who is a female, was dating this guy. And he said that the guy used to treat his cousin, you know, pretty poorly, pretty disrespectful. So one day they were all out. I guess the cousin and Olajuwon were out, and they see the guy's mother. And the mother, the guy says to Olajuwon, or the cousin says to Olajuwon, hey, this is the man's mother, but she tries to act young, basically like she's a cougar. So Olajuwon says, oh, you know, you're really pretty. You ought to let me take you out sometime. So it ends up that the cougar lady ends up going and getting a hotel room for her and Olajuwon. And Olajuwon on the phone says, well, she got a hotel for us, and then she gave me a sex education class. So he obviously slept with the mother and had sex. So then he says a month later, he's over the cousin's house, his female cousin's house, and the daughter of that cougar woman is over his cousin's house. And he says it's late at night. One thing led to another. Next thing you know, he's giving sex education class to the daughter. So that ends up being how he slept with not only the mother, but he slept with the daughter. So Keisha Knight Pulliam says, so I guess you taught her what the mother taught you. That was funny. He's like, I guess he did. And Keisha Knight Pulliam was like, oh, how thoughtful of you, paying it forward. That was too funny. So anyway, Olajuwon goes on to say that 2 months later, the mother calls him on the phone, you know, because the mother, I guess, doesn't drive, and says, hey, I'm at the train station. Can you come and pick me up and, you know, drop her off somewhere? So he goes to the train station to pick up the mother. He doesn't even know that the daughter is with him. He goes to the train station, and both the mother and the daughter at the train station. So they get in the car. So Olajuwon says he runs out of things to talk about. I mean, I've never seen that before. So he runs out of things to talk about. So So I guess they start talking. So lo and behold, when they finally get out of the car, they tap Olajuwon on the shoulder and tell him, you passed the course. And so that's where he figured out they both knew what was going on, but I guess they was pleased. So I guess it was all good. So, you know, it is a creepy story, but I guess the mother, the cougar mother and the daughter was with it. So, hey, you know what? Who are we to judge? So Steve starts making a joke. He's like, oh, it's glad you could help out the community, Olajuwon. He said, we need to go to the University of Olajuwon. It was so funny. Everybody was clowning Olajuwon, but everybody was laughing. It was really, really funny. And it's so interesting because, you know, you would think they would start thinking bad about Olajuwon, but Steve gave Olajuwon a really nice compliment. He said, you know what? Olajuwon is a lot younger than me, but I take notes on Olajuwon. He says, because a lot of people judge Olajuwon on the outside based on the way he looks, his tats and all this other kind of stuff. But he started talking about how what a heart Olajuwon has and the way that he cares for Katina. Steve said he admired it in him. And he said, I write down a lot of notes when I see Olajuwon. And Steve said, you would think it would be me because he's older. But he said he has learned a lot from Olajuwon. And that's what I'm telling people. Olajuwon, the tiger, has changed its stripes. He still got that charm, but he's not using his charm for evil anymore. He's using his charm for good, for the betterment of his marriage, and I like it. They had this little story where they were talking about, in part of the episode, Alyssa started talking about she went to a psychic before she got married. And she was saying that the psychic told her that she was going to meet her soulmate, and her soulmate was going to have a tattoo, a lion tattoo. Well, we come to find out that Steve has a lion tattoo. Noi found out that Alyssa said that her soulmate had a lion tattoo, and it made Noi cry. Noi was so upset that Alyssa was running around talking about that her soulmate had a lion tattoo. And Noi's like, no, that's my man. That's my husband with the lion tattoo. But Noi started crying. So Alyssa ends up changing the story and saying it wasn't a lion tattoo. It was an eagle tattoo. And the only reason that Alyssa changed the story is because she didn't want Noi to feel bad. That's the first time I saw Alyssa ever perform any sort of compassion, to be honest with you. But she showed enough compassion to not upset Noi. She changed the story from a lion tattoo to an eagle tattoo. But Steve was telling the story that everybody was telling him he can't take his shirt off at the beach because then it was going to be this big whoop-to-do over the fact that it was Steve who had this lion tattoo. So anyway, they start talking about the whole fiasco that happened between Katina and Lindsay on the boat. So as you know, on the boat, Lindsay and Katina got into it because Lindsay started telling the story about how she was triggered. And then Katina says, I'm not going for this no more. I'm not going to let you tell this story any kind of way you want to start in the middle. So Katina read her up and down. Katina corrected her and said, you know what? You can't be talking about you're triggered when you're the one that started it. You can't be screaming victim when you're the one that started it. She talks about how Lindsay likes to poke, and then she wants to cry victim, and then she wants to start crying when she was the one that started everything. So they start talking about this. So here goes Lindsay. All of a sudden, Lindsay decides she's going to change her story. So now Lindsay says, well, I actually wasn't triggered by Olajuwon. I was triggered by you, Katina. What? So she said she was triggered by Katina, not on the plane, but in the airport. Because what she says is that Katina came up in her face. Here it is in the middle of the story again. Well, Katina says, yeah, I did get up in your face because you started talking about you want to fight my husband, and I did get up in your face. So once again, here is Lindsay starting the story in the middle as opposed to saying what she said, what came out her mouth to make Katina get in her face. So Lindsay says, that's not what I said. I said, do you want to fight me? I didn't say I want to fight him. And Katina says, no, that's not what you said. But then it started going into this other broader conversation. And Katina said, listen, when you start yelling something that in a crowded airport about a black man wanting to fight you and you're a white woman, Katina says that can get a black man in a lot of trouble. And he says, at this point in time, I did intervene. I got in between you and my husband because I didn't want my husband, a black man, getting in this with you, a white woman. So then Keisha Knight sort of interrupted and said, hey, you know what, this is a social lesson for a lot of people, because unless you are a black woman married to a black man, you may not understand this situation. And everybody was sitting there listening. Lindsay was like, I'm aware. No, you're not aware. And if you are aware, that makes it even worse if you're aware. So you might as well stick to say you're not aware, because that might be better. But if you're aware and you still did it, that actually makes you worse. So afterward, Katina and I asking, Katina, hey, are you guys going to be able to get past this? Talking about her and Lindsay. And you know what? Katina basically said, you know what? I just need to keep my distance. And that's basically what she said. She said it nice. She goes, I'll be respectful, but for the most part, I just need to keep my distance. She don't need to be friends with Lindsay. Lindsay's not the type of person that Katina's going to want to be friends with. So they're asking Lindsay, will you be able to forgive Katina? And Lindsay's like, oh yeah, I'll be able to forgive her. I'm always willing to give people a second chance. Lindsay gets on my nerves. She acts like she's the gracious one. Why you need to give Katina a chance? You're the one that needs a second chance. So she starts saying, you know what? I'm just happy to see this sort of softer side of you now, because we didn't really get to see that. That damn Lindsay, I can't stand her. I can't stand the things that come out her mouth. So anyway, they start talking about the sweet scene between Olajuwon and Katina at the end, where, he did all the romantic stuff with the hearts and the flowers on the bed. I know Lindsay was jealous. Lindsay was jealous because her little romantic night was a big flop with Mark the Shark, where he basically didn't do anything. He ruined her romantic night. So I know she was upset, because afterward he was like, I want to distance myself from you. So she was all upset. So to see how Katina's romantic night was so wonderful and beautiful, and Katina was saying, no man has ever been this romantic towards me. She goes, I've gotten gifts before, but the romanticism that he brought that night was more than she ever had received from any man. And she was just talking about how happy she was, how great she felt, and how sweet Olajuwon was. So they even asked her, well, after that night, did you guys end up consummating the marriage? And she said, no, we didn't even consummate. She said, we cuddled, we held each other. And she was like, well, I didn't want to get digmatized. She said, I didn't want to get digmatized. So she says, I really want to keep a level head, a clear level head. So at this point in time, she was saying no, that they hadn't had, any sex together, because she didn't want to confuse the two, because I'm sure she's still trying to take it slow, and I'm all for it. So she was saying no, at that point in time, they hadn't done that because they wanted to take it slow, and she didn't want it to cloud her judgment. But that's it. It was a really good show. A lot more stuff added to the episode. And like I said, go back and watch the other videos individually. And I elaborated on a little bit more and brought the context more into play in each of the videos. So that's it. Talk to you guys later. Bye.